Hello and welcome to the Commander Theory podcast. I'm Nick Beatman and I'm here with my friend Zach Mack.
Hey everybody.
It is way ahead of schedule, but we've just gotten our first previews from Strixhaven. We're going to be discussing the lore tidbits we've received, some interesting info about the set's structure, and we're going to be talking about the 5 preview cards we've seen. But before we jump in, I want to briefly talk about our Patreon. If you head on over to patreon.com/commandertheory, you can support the show and get sweet benefits for as little as $1 a month. If you aren't ready to be a patron yet, you can help us out by rating or reviewing us on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. All right, with that, let's jump right into the flavor. We know that Strixhaven is set on the plane of Arcavia. It is set in a wizarding school with 5 colleges, each centered on an enemy color pair. Each of our colleges was founded by an elder dragon whose name the school bears. Do you want to tell us about some of these colleges?
Yes, so we got their names and a little blurb about them. So I guess I'll just start going down in order, I assume. So the first one is the White Black College or school, or what should we be calling these colleges?
Let's go with.
They said college.
We can
so
we could also say house.
Yeah.
But whatever you feel, I think we're just going to use those interchangeably.
Yeah, I'll say college because they said it. So the first college is White Black, and they are called the Silver Quill. So Silver Quills wield the magic of words, from inspiring battle poetry to biting arcane insults. Stylish, intimidating, and tirelessly competitive, these mages are born leaders with a razor-sharp wit and natural charisma that can be used for good or ill. Their motto is "Sharp style, sharper wit." So this is just already on the surface an interesting take on White Black.
Yeah,
I would
very
say.
different from like the stodgy, staid, religious focused Orzhov.
Yeah, I think as we go through, well, with the exception of the next one we're going to talk about, as we go through, there's a pretty stark contrast between the guild in this colors and the college in this color. So should I just keep on moving?
Yeah, go for it.
So the next one is the Black Greenhouse. They are called Witherbloom. Witherblooms are goth biomagers. They draw power from the essence of living beings, whether that means enhancing nature or exploiting it. Witherbloom mages are most at home riding zombie crocs, picking herbs for potions, and hanging out in their swamp making grim jokes. Their motto is "Get your hands dirty." How do you feel about this?
Well, talking about like the grim jokes makes them seem a little less a little less dour than the Golgari. I'd say that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just like the sort of tone they're going for across all of these colleges. It's mostly a younger student population, and so it's going to be like a little bit more fun than like the guilds on Ravnica, which are like adult organizations that are very mature and have existed for thousands of years, and just generally don't have much of a sense of humor.
Yeah, this seems to me, and as we continue going through these colleges and more info that we got about the plane and the flavor, that the pendulum is swinging more towards the uh, light-hearted, jaunty spirit of magic, as opposed to the very heavy, dark kind of tones that we get sometimes in maybe the horror sets or sets where there's a big war, like War of the Spark or something like that. So this seems like it's going to be very bright and vibrant, even the Death College, um, and moving on then, so the next college is Green Blue. They are called Quandrix. Quandrix mages are ingenious math magicians. They study patterns, fractals, and symmetries to command power over the fundamental forces of nature. They'll solve a Rubik's Cube while contemplating the metaphysical properties of the universe and can recite every number of pi backwards. Their motto is "Math is magic." So, my favorite part of this is that Rubik is canonical in the multiverse now. That's great.
Oh yeah. Also, I think we're gonna skip over that whole pi backwards thing. Let's not open that can of
Oh,
worms.
oh,
Um,
yeah. No, I don't want to talk about. I'm gonna put my foot down right now. I don't want to talk about that.
this is a really interesting take on blue green because
Hmm.
I feel like blue green the biological has been front and center on previous takes on blue green, and this is uh, just barely related to nature at all, like only in the sense that like certain um, numbers and ratios appear in nature, but really seems like it's a lot more intellectual and a lot more blue focused than the Simic.
Yeah, and honestly, like I like the gameplay of the Simic, and I have not liked the aesthetics of the Simic.
Mhm.
This looks like it's going to be a lot cooler, at least to me. A lot of like cool angles and fractals, and a lot of like visual cues that will be very pleasing to the eye, I think.
Mhm.
Um, which also kind of gets us to the next college, which is blue red. Prismari. The Prismari are the theater kids of Strixhaven, and magic is how they express themselves. Their spells can be spectacles of raw creativity or meticulous artistic expressions. All the world's a stage, and whether their art is informed by mind or emotion, Prismari always leave a lasting impression. Their motto is express yourself with the elements. And again, elements are very flashy. They're a really big part of a lot of magic and magic cards. So I think these guys are going to have like a very uh, large, well, technically they're going to have a very large like pool of sources, but there's probably just going to be a lot of like fire and ice.
uh, this 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 is making me think that like in general, they're going to try to lean into whatever color is less expressed in the
In the guilds.
Ravnican guilds. Yeah, because this feels like extremely red. It's hard to pick out exactly what the blue elements of the Prismari are.
Mm,
I'm seeing expression, emotion, raw creativity, art, being artistic. All of this feels extremely red, whereas the Izzet on Ravnica, are very industrial, very experimental, very scientific, and they feel like they lean a bit more blue in terms of like their role in the society and the tools they use.
mm. Yeah, I definitely can see that. I've thought a lot about this and the color pie and color pie philosophies, and like red blue is the color of creativity. It's like you are creating something, but you're also trying to like perfect your craft as you're doing it. That's really cool to see that that might be what we're getting with Prismari. I would really appreciate and enjoy getting um, kind of a more holistic look on creativity within the bounds of the color pie. I think that's an interesting, or like art or artsiness within the bounds of the color pie.
Hmm.
Um, and do you want me to read off this last college, I guess?
Yeah, go for it.
So this is the Red White College. They are called Lorehold. Loreholds are diligent researchers and daring adventurers, passionate scholars obsessed with history. They explore the past by poring over archaeological artifacts and summoning long dead spirits. For some students, the past is a rich tapestry worthy of disciplined study, while others wear that tapestry like a cape as they jump down into the forgotten tomb. Their motto is "Leave no stone unturned."
To me, I'm seeing a lot of graveyard. I'm seeing a lot of like graveyardy words in this snippet here, like seeing archaeological, seeing tomb, long dead spirits. It's this is leading me to believe that that this college is going to have some sort of graveyard focus. Are you getting that vibe?
Yes. And I mean, the spoiler alert, we did get some cards we're going to talk about. And that the card for Lorehold made me, we'll obviously bring it up, but it made me go, huh?
Hmm.
What? What does this mean? I'm really hoping to see some more graveyard focus because white should have more graveyard stuff than it already has. Red getting or has been getting more graveyard stuff than it was previously. And that's great because it's so good at filling up the graveyard. That's great because like I want to pitch this card to my Faithless Looting early in the game, and then I want to be able to use it later. Like I want to have my cake and eat it too. And it looks like Lorehold might be the way to do that.
Yeah, I think that like one of the weaknesses of white graveyard recursion is that it doesn't really have good ways to get things in the graveyard. Like black has sacrifice outlets. It even has things like entomb or buried alive, so it can like set up the thing that it will reanimate later. Whereas white's feels more reactive because it
Yes.
doesn't have mechanisms for putting things in there, and it's really just, well, if my opponent casts a board wipe or casts a kill spell, then I can get this creature back. But pairing it with red, as you said, like allows you to set it up that you're discarding something to your graveyard and then reanimating it with your white card. So I think that gameplay is really, really interesting, and I hope that we do get to see something like that in the set. One very interesting tidbit I just want to mention is during the interview that we did with Ethan Fleischer, he mentioned that Wizards has been looking at potentially um, changing the color balance of the newly printed cards in the Commander precons to favor colors that sort of need more tools like red and white. So we're going to see 81 new cards, that those may not be evenly distributed across all colors. So that's something to look forward to in this set.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see like what maybe came of that decision
Mhm.
in this product. That would be really cool.
Uh, well, I also want to talk about one very interesting element of Strixhaven, which is the mystical archive.
Oh god, yeah.
So every single pack, whether that's a set booster or a draft booster or a collector booster, is going to have some number of uh, these reprint cards, which are, it's going to be a pool of 63 cards from across Magic's past. So far, what we've seen have just been instants and sorceries, and it's possible that that's going to be the restriction on them. But they all feature unique art that sort of look like an illustrated, or rather an illuminated medieval text. Very attractive. Set and draft boosters are going to get one of these cards in each booster. Collector's booster are going to have at least three of them. Um, and there's also going to be Japanese variants for these reprinted cards, which you're going to be able to get in your Japanese draft set and collector boosters. And at least one is going to come in collector boosters in all languages. So, just to give you an idea of what we've seen so far, we've seen Opt, we've seen Swords to Plowshares, we've seen Demonic Tutor. And a really interesting thing to note is that although they are not going to be legal in standard or modern, they are going to be playable when you draft these
Yeah.
cards.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest part for me.
So, what do you think about the mystical archive? What are you hoping to see? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean this actually blows me away when I heard it. Um Things like this are actual meaningful ways to solve the reprint problem in a way
Mhm.
that I just thought Wizards would never do, you know, like they're introducing these cards in a way such that they're collectible so that you'll want them, but they'll be more in circulation. So the non-fun, non-foil, non-Japanese foil promo version of it is going to be a lot cheaper to get. Um, we haven't seen the rarity distribution. I'm assuming it's going to be a lot more likely to get an opt over a demonic tutor.
Mhm.
Um, it's one slot in the booster pack proper. It's not replacing a common or anything like that. So you just get a booster plus this extra bibliotech card. That's also crazy to me. I think this is really cool, and the ones we've seen so far look incredible. Like, really, really gorgeous. I think this is overall a good thing for the game. I think if people react to these positively, we could see like meaningful change in prices, in kind of player attitude towards reprints, and Wizards' attitude towards reprints.
Yeah, I think that like the approaches they've done in the past with the mystery boosters and the list um, were definitely a more conservative way to do things. This
Yeah.
is more exciting. It's going to have a much larger impact. And I can't wait to see the remainder of the contents of the list. Personally, I don't think I'm going to be playing a lot of these alt art versions just because I kind of like all my cards to look the same. But
Mm.
I am excited to see the impact that it may have on prices.
Oh, I'm one of those people where like you draw, if possible, you draw an opening hand of one of my decks, and you're like not quite sure what game you're playing. And Secret Lair has really pumped that to the max, but this is also gonna do that here. And yeah, kind of like you're saying, like it. Even if you're not playing with these cards, they're gonna have an impact on the cards you want to buy and purchase. So just amazing. Did not expect that. I guess we can get into the cards now. They spoiled a cycle. Um, also, did not expect this from this set, but pretty exciting to see this. It's another cycle of commands, so spells, instants, and sorceries, where they have 4 modes, and you pick 2 of them. Um, I guess we should just get through them one by one, right? Do
Yeah,
you
go
want
for
me
it.
to go for it? So, the first one is Silver Quill Command. This is a 4 mana sorcery to white black, and it has choose 2. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains flying until end of turn. Return target creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Target player draws a card and loses a life. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. Yeah, what do you think about this?
So first thing to note is, of course, the terminology change. Mana value is the new term for converted mana cost. Um, on the one hand, it is like, fewer words. It's probably like less intimidating to new players. Like converted mana cost is a mouthful and like kind of looks like it's more complicated than it actually is. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
mana value might be a little bit more intuitive. I trust that they've like play tested both versions and that this one is easier for new players to grasp. The one downside I can see of this terminology change is that like, mana value may be quicker to write out fully than converted mana cost, but I think it's like slower to say and write than CMC. Like we've gotten so used to saying CMC over the years, and I think mana value just is less. It less quickly communicates what you're trying to say. What do you think
How do I
about
feel
mana
about it?
value?
I think it is more intuitive. I have taught. uh, I mean, I'm probably nearing 100 people in my life how to play Magic. So I've worked with a lot of new players over the years, and one of the things that was always a sticking point, or something that like you'd have to explain, usually they'd get it pretty quickly, but it always needed an explanation, was converted mana cost. They'd be like, "So what's the converted mana cost? Why is it saying this?" And I think mana value is something that is probably more intuitive for new players. I am like you, assuming that they tested it. And when they see return target creature card with mana value 2 or less from grave to the battlefield, I think that makes it a little bit more intuitive, because they will know like the term 2 drop usually. They'll know about like bears, they'll know about like 2/1s for 2 with first strike or whatever. And they'll be able to look and kind of like piece together maybe a little bit easier mana value 2 or less with this card costs 2, I probably get this back, as opposed to like, what was the converted mana cost, just the generic on it? Like what does that mean? Which is something that I have run into before. So um, card power level aside, I am in general happy about this. I do agree with you. It takes longer to say. I think I'm mostly going to say CMC most all the time. I bet you I would put money down that R&D also is doing that, like internally, like when they're in meetings and stuff. But I think writing this out on the card is a good thing in general. The card itself, to actually get to like the mechanics on the card, I think this would have been awesome if it was an instant. I think this could have done a lot of work for Commander, but I think where it's at now as a sorcery is that it's merely very good in Standard or on Arena, and that's probably the only place I'm going to play it. Um, I might one day have a deck that wants this or needs this, but this seems very geared towards Standard and Arena play, like limited.
Yeah, I don't really see a combination of abilities that make this worth 4 mana at sorcery speed for me.
Yeah,
Um, it's like really painful that it says target opponent
yeah,
sacrifices a creature rather than
I
each
know.
opponent. Um, this just doesn't. I just don't think this is going to get there in Commander.
No,
Like several of these modes, just like target creature gets +3/+3 and gain flying until end of turn. That's not worth a card. Um, unless you're and target player drawing a card and losing 1 life, that's worth maybe 1 mana.
yeah,
um
yeah,
yeah, I just don't see. I don't see myself playing this.
yep. I agree, and I think on that note gets us to the next one. If you're okay with me reading this guy,
Go for it.
so this is the Witherbloom command. This one is only 2 mana. It is black green for a sorcery. Choose 2. Target player mills 3 cards, then you return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana. Sorry, see I did it right there. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Target creature gets -3/-1 until end of turn. Target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So, yeah, how do you feel about this guy?
um maybe in like CEDH.
Yeah.
um like if you're playing a version of the format that has huge pressure for every card to be extremely cheap, and like the most of the creatures that show up aren't big beaters but like very small utility guys, then this could be like a solid 2-for-1 where you kill like a Sylvan Library and a Dark Confidant and feel pretty good about it. um but like milling 3 cards and returning a land from a graveyard to your hand, that's not worth a card. Target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, that's not worth a card. So really you need to be getting value off of both of these middle abilities for me to really consider this card. And it's like a sorcery speed, so it's going to be hard to like set it up, like because like maybe if you could do this mid combat, like the -3/-1 would get you further towards killing a card or like trading up.
Yeah.
um but gosh, at sorcery speed, like abrupt decay um is an instant. It destroys things with mana value 3 or less. It's uncounterable. That
Yep.
card just, I would pretty much just rather run that card in almost any situation.
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't really have much to add to that. But I guess I could read the next one too, if you're okay with that.
Go for it.
So this is Quandrix command. This is an instant, 3 mana, 1 green blue. Choose 2. Return target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. Target player shuffles up to 3 target cards from their graveyard into their library. So I mean, this one, I don't really play a null very often. This looks like it's a limited bomb. Like the tempo swing, the combat you win with Quandrix command is insane when you're drafting on arena. And again, that's the only place I'm going to play this.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Putting 2+1/+1 counters on a creature, that's not how you win a game of Commander. Shuffling 3 cards from a graveyard into a library,
Yeah.
not. I mean, it could be incidental graveyard hate. I guess that's not bad, but it's like not the thing that makes me put the card in my deck.
Yeah.
Bouncing a creature planeswalker is also not something I'm excited to pay 3 mana for. Um, and again, a null costs 1 mana. This costs 3. I just don't see myself running this.
Yeah.
Like if we're looking for versatile answers in green blue, you have access to Void Slime. That is something I would, if I'm looking for like sort of a catch-all, that's what I'd much rather be playing.
I totally agree. Yeah. I think this is honestly like a standard or limited card. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really going to pull it out of the binder.
Yeah.
Um, This next one is Prismari Command. Also 3 mana instant, 1 blue red. Choose 2. Prismari Command deals 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards 2 cards. Target player creates a treasure token. Destroy target artifact. So this one actually I could conceivably see myself playing.
I like this is my favorite of the cycle. I
Hmm.
like this a lot, and I think part of why I like it is because it's such an easy comparison to Kolagon Command, which has been great for me.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, Kolagon's Command shares 2 of the modes with this card. Both of them can deal 2 damage to any target and destroy an artifact. Like there's so many artifacts floating around in Commander, and there's plenty of small utility creatures. And unlike Witherbloom Command, like killing a 2 toughness creatures uh, seems a lot more valuable than killing just a 1 toughness creature.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
think of all the 2/2s that are commanders that they printed over the last few years. Like, as the format has sped up, there's been just a lot more powerful 2-drop commanders and
mhm.
3-drop commanders. So, Prismari Command actually kills those where the Witherbloom does not.
Yeah, getting a Kinnan off the board can be
Yeah.
very instrumental to your victory.
Hmm.
Um, the the treasure token is kind of like a throwaway mode, but on Kolagon's command, the discard was kind of a throwaway mode, so that's fine. And I really like this looting ability on Prismari command. Um, just being able, it's going to help you find gas in much the same way that the Raise Dead mode on Kolagon's command
Hmm.
allow, got you some gas. I just think this is a really solid card, and I would look to play this in pretty much all my Izzet decks.
Yeah. I think this one actually does offer a lot of utility and it does it at instant speed. Um, I mean, this is like a funny, weird little thing. Think it's interesting that the blue red card didn't get a counterspell mode.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're really trying to push blue red this time into a more proactive space as opposed to a possible like reactive space. And I'm kind of okay with that. My guess is that we're going to see some more powerful like reactions like in Quandrix as opposed to Prismari based on these commands. That could be totally wrong, but um, that's
Yeah.
kind of what it's looking like.
No, I mean, I think given that the other 3 blue commands all had a counterspell mode, I think it's okay to have
Hmm.
one that eschews that in favor of other effects. Um, I gotta say though, this card is almost not even a blue card because just
Yeah.
just looking at the modes, on this, I see shock, I see faithless looting, I see creating a treasure token,
Hmm.
Brass's bounty, whatever, and I see shatter, and it's like where is the blue card. I mean, I get that like looting is blue and rummaging is red, but this could have been a red command and it would have been like a pretty sick card, but it would have been
Yeah.
probably a red staple going forward. Okay, I can read off this last spoiler we've gotten from Strixhaven.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So this is Lorehold command. It is 3 red white for an instant. Choose to create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible and haste until end of turn. Lorehold command deals 3 damage to any target. A target player gains 3 life. And sacrifice a permanent, then draw 2 cards. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think this again is just like a blowout and limited, and that's all I'm ever gonna play this.
Mm-hmm.
This is really just not what I want to be doing in Commander. Everything about it is overcosted. The other ones they're overcosted, but like I could see the timing being a thing on the Quandrix command. None of those effects are worth 3 mana or even 2 mana, a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you time it at the right time, you can get a bunch of value out of it. This one, even if you're timing it at the right time, you're still only getting a little value out of it. You're never going to feel like you're really like going off with Lorehold command. And that just really kind of puts me down on the card.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like making a 3/2 is not what I want to be doing with my 5 mana card.
Oh, yeah.
Ditto like the lightning helix effect. Like lightning helix does not see any play in Commander, and I'm not really excited to pay 5 for it.
Yeah.
And then ditto like the perilous. Well, maybe we'll get into that in a moment, but
Yeah, I think that we should talk about that on its own too.
okay. In terms of like giving my creatures +1/+0 indestructible haste, I'm not super willing to spend a card to give my creatures +0/+1 or +1/+0 and haste. But giving them indestructible is definitely valuable, but it's
Mhm.
something I'm willing to pay like maximum 3 mana for, and preferably like 2 or less.
Yeah.
Because like I see that effect as more something you're doing like a reactive ability in response to a board wipe, and it's just kind of embarrassing that they're expecting me to pay 5 mana to protect my board from a wipe that probably costs that person 4 mana.
Yeah,
Like
especially with Doomscar 2, it might have only been 3.
yeah.
Like that's a pretty big onus to put on the aggressive player.
Yeah, and especially like in a color identity that can't ramp easily, this like I mean, Green just got a reprint of Heroic Intervention in the last year, and you're expecting me to pay 3 extra mana for this effect
Yeah.
in my red white deck.
And I want to say something too. Something that really puts me down on this card is that it's only creatures. It's only creatures you control get indestructible
Mm-hmm.
because they also get haste. Even like Boros Charm made your stuff indestructible. Like even the Heroic Intervention made your stuff indestructible. Like all of it. So kind of feels bad. It feels bad, man.
Yeah. Um, Also, and I guess we'll talk about the last mode now, the sacrifice a
Hmm.
permanent, then draw 2 cards. That's really interesting. It's certainly intriguing. It's not something we've seen much before in red white. Um, Actually asked Jules Robbins about this, who's the red representative on R&D's Council of Colors. He said that this ability is something that red and white can only get in combination. So it's not like a mono red ability. It's not a mono white ability. But still, if we could see red white commanders or other red white cards that sort of let you convert the efficient token generation in this color identity into cards, that's really interesting and attractive to me.
No, I agree. I think that this is a cool place for that. like color combo to go. I think it's jarring to see it first, but it makes sense thinking about it.
Mhm.
Just because I was not used to red white sacrificing stuff for value. Not it's very welcome. I do want to say that I do want more of this. It just was like, oh, whoa,
Mhm.
hello. But even then, kind of like you said, it still doesn't. If I make I that mode in particular feels really bad with the other modes too, because it's like, okay, so I make it 3-2 and then I sack it and draw 2 cards, or when am I gonna make my board indestructible but also sack something to draw 2 cards? Like, well, it seems like the first 3 modes play well together in combat. Well, I guess they all play well together in combat, which is kind of why I'm not super high on this.
Yeah, I also just hate that like by being 5 mana, it misses the window for Sunforger,
Yes,
which
that
is
is, yeah, that's
like
real.
yeah, like Sunforger is like the red white engine card that people are most excited about, and I think you really do have to design with that in mind.
Hmm.
Like I'd be willing to, if we have to make this like take off the +1/+0 or maybe make it a 2/2 spirit just to get this at 4 mana, it's going to make the card way better.
Yeah, yeah. Then it actually might see some play.
Yeah, but as it
Mhm.
stands, I I'm not going to play this card.
Yeah, just far too situational. So I think my big takeaway from looking at these cards is that they aren't designing these, and they're probably not designing the set entirely with Commander in mind. I would be shocked if we don't get like a cycle or 2 or 3 of legendary creatures of the college
The
headmasters,
Elder
of the
Dragons.
elder dragons, of this, like the star pupils, like whatever those characters might be. Um, but in general, it looks like this is a very splashy cycle of rares without commander in mind, which I'm kind of into. I'm kind of okay with them not designing this whole set for commander, especially with the knowledge that there's 81 new cards in the commander precons for this year. So I am excited for those. I'm excited to see what the themes are and the mechanics are of Strixhaven. But again, like, how long out is it? It's like March, the end of March or something,
I
or
think it might actually be
April.
April. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that this is coming out.
very strange that we're getting so much information like 2 weeks
Hmm.
after the release of Kaldheim.
Yeah,
Um,
and Time Spiral Remastered is going to come out between these two releases, Kaldheim and Strixhaven. So it's like we got this like weird little teaser. Here's the commands thing, and then in a few weeks we're going to get some Time Spiral Remastered like spoils, which we probably won't end up talking about on the show because I'm pretty sure that's a reprint set.
mhm.
But just seems kind of weird to me, at least.
Yeah. Um, I I agree. It's very strange to get it at this time. I mean, hey, new spoilers are new spoilers,
Yeah.
but I am very interested to see this new take on these color combinations.
Oh yeah.
It's also a good opportunity to get some fixing for enemy colors, because as we know, the enemy colored land cycles like have greatly lagged behind the ally colors. Personally, I'm hoping that we're going to see the remaining like Battle for Zendikar duels, the ones that
Oh,
have basic land types and enter the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. I think
the
those would
Tango
be,
lands,
yeah, the Tango
or
lands.
the battle lands.
Yeah, whichever you prefer.
Yeah.
Um, but those would be great additions to the format. Just make it so that your fetch lands work a little bit better, can get a little bit more value for you. So I'm hoping that we see that. There's certainly a lot of ally color cycles that would be cool to see translated into enemy colors.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm wondering also if this thing we saw in Call Time of common mana fixing, common dual lands. If we're going to see like high powered lands or a high powered land cycle at even uncommon, at like a lower rarity than just rare, I think that would also be a pretty good trend moving forward. But who knows? I mean, the pathways weren't, so maybe we're only going to get tapped lands at common. But if they're going to make tap lands with basic land types on them, not going to complain too hard.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah. Do you have any last thoughts you want to talk about? Any of the lore?
Well, yeah.
Do you think we're going to see the Elder Dragons?
I mean, we're definitely going to see the Elder Dragons. I am not certain whether they're going to be in the main set or if they're going to be the face cards on the Commander precons. But
that's cool. Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you before we wrap this episode up is, tell me, which house do you think you'd get sorted into?
I am probably going to pick Witherbloom because I'm just a big Golgari slut, just love graveyards, love black green. So I think at the pre-release, I might end up choosing Witherbloom, assuming we have pre-releases. Let's say this is like circa 2006 and it's Return to Ravnica again, like something like that. Or 2006 was Ravnica the first. So, what was it? 2012 was Return to Ravnica. There you go. So let's say it's like circa 2012. I can go to the pre-release again and get a guild kit. I probably would choose Witherbloom, but I think I would be sorted into blue-red. Me as a person is pretty blue-red.
Gotcha. I really like the Silver Quill aesthetic, but in terms of mechanics, like lore hold is, I suspect that's going to be the one that's most exciting to me. But
I totally see that.
Yeah. But thanks for chatting with me on this. And thanks to everyone for listening. Before we go, I want to give a brief shout out to our Patreon patrons. They are Gustav, Ryan, Mark, Eamon, Addison, Mason, Rick, Laser, Raphael, Charlotte, the White Clays, Hannah, Anthony, Andy, Dylan, James, Justin, Logan, Roger, Evan, Bryce, Dylan, Benjamin, Jamie, Matthew, Jason, Kyle, Brandon, Kyle, Jeremy, Russell, Troy, Dylan, Walter, Leo, Ian, John, Tom, and Kevin. Thank you all for supporting the show. If you're not currently a Patreon patron but would like to become one, please check us out at patreon.com/Commander Theory. Thanks again for listening. If any of you theorists want to get in touch with us, I am at Commander Theory on Twitter and Tumblr, and Zach is at Fat Bartleby on Twitter. Our theme song is Lincoln Continental by Entropy, and you can check them out on SoundCloud. Until next time, we're going back to the drawing board.